In this video, I'm going to show how to connect to a MySQL database using Python. A prerequisite to this video is that you have already installed this PyMySQL library. If you're running Linux, I've included the bash command here that you can use to install PyMySQL. You'll just need to get that installed first because that's what we're going to be using to interact with the MySQL database. So after you've installed PyMySQL, the first thing that we want to do with Python is to connect to a MySQL database. So first we just need to go ahead and import PyMySQL. Okay, and then after that's been imported, then we can make our database connection object. So I'm just making a variable here called db. And we're going to say db equals PyMySQL.connect. And then we're going to pass in our connection parameters. So the first parameter is going to be our host. So this is going to be the IP address of the MySQL database. And the next parameter is going to be the user. And this is going to be who you want to connect to the database as. Then the password for that user. And lastly, the database on that server that you'd like to connect to. All right, so I've specified all my parameters here, and now I'm going to run that. All right, we see that we're able to connect successfully. We didn't get an error. Now that we have that, what we want to do is create a cursor object. We're going to make a variable called cursor and assign that to db.cursor. What the cursor is basically the object that you use to interact with the MySQL database. All right, and now we're going to run cursor.execute, and execute is the function that you want to use to run any SQL statements or SQL queries against your MySQL database. So I'm just going to run a simple select statement. I have a table here that is just called TBL lizards, and it's just got some information about lizards inside. So I'm just going to select all of the information inside of that table. Now, before I go any further, we need to actually write out the logic so that we're able to see what this SQL query is giving us back. So I'm going to make a variable called numRows, and that's going to be cursor.rowCount. So this is going to keep track of how many rows are returned from that previous query. Then I'm going to make a simple for loop and say for I in range numRows. Then I'll make a variable called row, and that's going to be equal to cursor.fetch1. And fetch1 is going to be fetching the current row that the cursor is on within each iteration of this for loop. And then lastly, I'm going to print that row. All right, so what I have here is my for loop is iterating over all the rows that are returned by this select statement and then printing each row out. So I should see some information returned from my TBL lizards table once I execute this cell. All right, and here we have it. So we've got all of the different information about these three types of lizards, and it's giving us exactly what we asked for. So I hope you found this video helpful. Hopefully now you are able to connect to your MySQL database using Python. If this was helpful to you, please like the video, comment, subscribe, and suggest, and thanks for watching.